Hello guys and welcome, it is ThatSrb2DUDE here today bringing you yet another Splatoon 2 video. Today we are going to be doing the patch comparison between version 2.2.2, because there's a lot of 2s there, and new version 2.3. So without further ado, let's get into it. First of all, the aerospray has an increased number of ink droplets per shot, allowing it to paint much better than before. For the 52 gal, there's been a reduced amount of sway from the first shot and an extended time that it takes for it to reach maximum sway when continuing to shoot, overall making the 52 gal much more accurate in its first few shots. For the jet scorcher, there has been a reduced sway of shots immediately after jumping by roughly 20%, so when you're jumping with the jet scorcher you are 20% more accurate. The Clash Blaster has been made 2 frames faster while shooting, meaning that it generally shoots a little bit faster. In return for this, the radius of ink spread has been reduced slightly. If you see in the version 2.3 version, you'll notice that they run out of ink first, and that is because you are shooting faster than before. For the L3 nozzle nose, there has been an increased shot speed by roughly 25% without changing the shot's distance. For the H3 nozzle nose, there has been a removal of weapon sway while jumping, meaning that you are 100% with the H3 at all times. They have also expanded the size of area inked at the point of impact. For the carbon roller, there has been an extended distance at which maximum damage is dealt when landing an attack, which is a horizontal swing. This has been increased by roughly 35%. For the Elite 4K, there has been an increase of speed with fully charged shots by roughly 50%. This, however, has not changed the range of the shot. For the Mini Splatling, ink recovery after shooting with this weapon is now 10 frames faster. For the Hydra Splatling, there has been an extended amount of time of being able to fire by 25%, meaning that you can shoot with the Hydra Splatling much longer than before. For the Dually Scorcher, there has been reduced weapon sway by roughly 20%, meaning that the weapon in general is just much more consistent, as you can see in version 2.3. For the Undercover Umbrella, there has been an expanded overall ink range, as you can see in version 2.3. There has been a slight increase of the amount of paint on the floor. For the Tenta Missiles, you are now able to go into squid form while in the period of readying the weapon. This will allow you to reposition yourself if you're in an area that you don't feel too confident in. For the Inkjet, you are now able to change the direction much quicker than before. As you can see in version 2.3, you are much more fluid around in the air. And this patch also applies to Baller as well. You are able to turn left and right, forward and back much more fluidly than before, making the Baller and Inkjet feel much less sluggish. And lastly, your squid beacons are now able to detect enemies that are nearby. The radius is pretty wide on this, and this is also something that did not apply with version 2.2. So that is pretty much all the comparisons to do with version 2.2 and version 2.3. Now I'm going to give you guys my general thoughts of what I think of this new patch. So starting with the aerospray, thank you very much Splatoon developers. Aerospray needs to paint. They got rid of it once before, mainly because it was able to spam Baller. They are basically giving back its painting, considering Baller isn't as strong as it used to be. So, fair play. It's stronger. Of course, Baller's stronger now, but nowhere near it used to be. For the 52 gal, honestly, there's going to be a huge rise in this. From me just testing out the 52 myself, I was actually amazed of how accurate this weapon is now. It's just, there's a lot less RNG at the very first few shots. So for sure, a lot of people are going to take advantage of that, especially since it also has the Baller buff as well. Baller feels really good. It's really, really fluid. So it's going to be really, really nice for people who use 52 a lot. For the Jet Squelcher, definitely a nice buff. A little bit of accuracy, better accuracy while jumping, especially if you're trying to, I guess, outplay people while jumping. If they're really close by to you, sometimes the Jet Squelcher is really helpful with stuff like that. The Clash Blaster may see some more use, considering it's 2 frames faster per shot. Basically, in, I guess, a killing situation with 4 indirects, 8 frames faster. That's also really good. I haven't seen too many people taking advantage of it, but I do feel like in terms of killing, it is much better. People don't normally use it, mainly because it doesn't get its special too fast, and considering it's also been nerfed with, I guess, inking area, then it's going to be a little bit harder to get that Stingery in the first place, so yeah, a couple things with that. Now let's talk about the nozzle noses. The nozzle noses are probably receiving the most amount of buffs. Starting with the L3 and L3D. L3, first of all, has Baller, so it gets the Baller buff. L3D, it also gets the Inkjet buff, so both specials are much more fluid. The weapon itself builds special extremely fast. And of course, getting the increase of speed velocity by 25% just makes it much more consistent when shooting people. And also another aspect, it allows it to kill faster just because the bullets are traveling through the air much faster to your opponents. So you just kind of have to rely on making sure your crosshair is on people more so than usual, because you don't have to lead your shots as you did before. So honestly, I definitely feel like we're going to see a big rise in L3s, considering of all the buffs it is actually getting. The H3 nozzle nose as well. The H3 nozzle nose is now a 100% accurate weapon, just like the squeezer is, except it's burst fire. The only problem I feel like with the H3, which I guess the thing where people won't use it as much as I guess the other weapons that have been buffed, is mainly because the H3 is just generally really slow, and it's nowhere near as fast as it used to be back in Splatoon 1. So I don't think it's going to get a lot of use out of it, to be honest, just my opinion. And considering the kits that it does have currently, I mean, it's not the greatest in my opinion. Even then, it is a much more consistent weapon if you're able to hit your shots, but you got to be taken into account that it's still really slow. Carbon Roller, I've actually seen a rise of this on the first day of the patch. There's a lot of people who have been using it, and it seems a lot more consistent in actually killing with a horizontal flick. Very, very helpful. Very, very helpful. I can't tell you enough how many times where I've seen a Carbon Roller try to kill me using a horizontal flick, and it's probably like swing 5 times before it still doesn't even get the kill until I actually kill him instead. So very, very good for the Carbon Roller to get this buff. Elita 4K is... it's disappointing. I mean, honestly, yeah, it is a little bit more consistent. You don't have to lead your shots as much with the Elita, but the thing is that I was looking really closely to how much faster you're going to be taking out an enemy, and it's only 5 frames faster with the, I guess, speed velocity buff with the increased fully charged shot. It's only 5 frames. It's not too much. I mean, a few frames, of course, it's better, but it's not too much of a difference. Generally, I'm going to say this all the time, buff the Elita with 5 or 10% more range, because then the Elita would have more reason to be used. At this point in time, it's competing with the Splatoscope, which both kind of have the same range at this point, and the Splatoscope charges much faster, making the range of the Elita just feel like, okay, why am I charging this long just to shoot just a little bit further than the Splatoscope? Like, it's just not on, dude. Just give it some more range. For the mini Splatling, 10 frames faster after ink recovery. Pretty nice. Allows it to, I guess, recover ink after, like, I guess it's run out of ink, as I showed in the examples there. Hydra Splatling definitely sets it apart from other Splatlings. Testing it myself, interesting, I'll have to say the least. It's gonna be great for painting, just being able to full charge and just shoot a bunch of ink out. So I guess a good backline inking weapon. I mean, the Hydra would be a pretty decent pick with that. Dually Squelcher is getting a lot of buffs lately. Like, each patch, it always gets somewhat more powerful, and it seems very, very consistent now. I'm not going to be surprised if we see a huge rise in Dually Squelchers, because the weapon itself, very, very consistent in shots now, because of the, I guess, the shot interval consistency, and now the reduced sway is much more consistent. Both reticles are close to each other, so there's just going to be a general area for where the most of the pellets are actually being fired. So it's getting really, really consistent. I feel like a lot of people are going to start using this weapon. Undercover Umbrella, increased painting. The weapon was already good at painting. It's not really... it's just a little bit better at painting now, so I don't know what to say about this weapon. I don't think we're going to see a rise in it. I still think shield needs to be stronger and needs better killing potential, possibly a little bit more range and such. For squid beacons, I'm not too sure about it. Even though the radius of where I guess the people are detected is pretty big, of course. It's definitely helpful for knowing if you want to jump to that beacon or not in that aspect. But if you're to use it in the case for being aggressive, you have to be a little bit careful, because if you're being pushed back, it's really easy for you to lose the beacon in the first place, and you could probably already detect that, hey, there's a person right in front of me because they're pushing me back. So when you think about it like that, it's an okay buff, definitely for, I guess, getting back into the game, or basically using the speed beacon in general. Helps you with that, and that's pretty much it. But the tender missiles, thank you very much, Nintendo. This is something that tender missiles really needed. Allowed it to be able to reposition by swimming. However, when you think about it as well, the buff only goes so far. It's still pretty much the very, very situational special. It needs a lot of coordination with it. It needs to be like, okay, I'm using tender missiles. Hey, teammate, push this guy out. He's being tender missiled. He's being scared because of these missiles falling towards him. If you look at it like that, then it's just like, tender missiles, they're somewhat the same. Except we can just reposition ourselves a little bit better. That's pretty much the only bonus with it, so I don't think it's going to be used as often just because of that buff, but if people can use it that way as I described, then more people would use it that way. And lastly, Inkjet and Baller. The special weapons feel super fluid. You could just, it's like butter. I'm just gonna say, it's just like butter. It's like you got some butter, I don't know what kind of brand, just putting on some toast. It feels like that, dude. It's really good. Especially with any type of weapon that also has these types of specials. Especially Tentatek, since it now has been buffed as well. It's no longer 230 inks for special gauge. It's now 210, so it's much less. So maybe more Tentatex were gonna basically come back from the dead, because a lot of people didn't really use the Tentatek because they never got the inkjet in the first place. So Tentatek is definitely coming back. Things like Octobrush as well are definitely getting some adjustments, especially since the Octobrush Nouveau has squid beacons and tenta missiles, so it gets buffed all around, but except the weapon itself. And pretty much basically any weapon that has these types of specials, either Inkjet, Baller, tenta missiles, a lot of buffs all around. If there was another patch, personally for me, what I would like to see, buff the Elite. Give it 5% more range or 10% more range, I don't care. Just a little bit more range so it sets it apart from the Splatoscope. And another one, which was actually a weapon that wasn't touched in this patch, is the 96 Gal. Honestly, I just feel like the 96 Gal should be able to paint just a little bit better. Just like make the, I guess, the shots that hit the ground ink just a little bit more. That's all I ask. So, because I feel like we're getting to a point where a lot of weapons are being used, which is really nice to see in the meta. There's a lot of good weapons and a lot of counterpicks to good weapons and such like that. It just makes the meta really, really nice to just get into, because it feels like you can just kind of use any type of weapon and trying to make something out of it, you know? A lot of people are a little bit skeptical that the blaster wasn't nerfed, and I'm kind of rethinking that. It's okay that the blaster is somewhat in an okay state, and I'm going to tell you why. It's mainly because since the Baller has been buffed and it's like a little bit more fluid and such, there's going to be somewhat of an increase of Ballers being used, since it's a lot more speedy and a little bit harder to take down. So Baller, I'm just saying, is an ultimate counter to blasters. So if you guys really want to take advantage and counterpick against the blaster, I would suggest find a weapon that has Baller, 52 cal aerospray, L3 nozzle nose. They're going to do great against it. So pretty much that has been my thoughts of this patch that we've received. This video was much longer than I thought it was going to be, so, you know, I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you guys enjoyed my thoughts in deep. So yeah, pretty much all I had to say. So thank you very much, everybody. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you did enjoy this video, please like, favorite, comment, and subscribe to the channel if you have not already. Follow me on Twitter and Twitch, both in the description below. Do it for both if you're feeling generous. And as always, guys, this has been ThatSrb2DUDE, and I shall see you guys in a future video. Also, thank you very much for 40k subscribers.